What's up, guys? It's Imagine Trying, here to show you that anybody can solo the Empty Tank Master Lost Sector. So this Lost Sector isn't particularly difficult as opposed to some of the others, but it can be only because of how congested a lot of the enemies are and how close a lot of the champions can be when you're engaging them. So right now we have Barrier and Overload champions, we have the Solar Burn, and we have the Arc Shields. Now you don't need to use solar weapons, and you don't really need to use arc weapons either, and I'll show you why when we actually do it, because a lot of enemies actually don't have arc shields. I think only 2 have arc shields. And then Solar Burn is, yeah, enemies will do a little bit more damage to you, but it's not going to, it's not going to be like super consequential. Right now I'm going for the Radiant Dance Machines, which is why I'm on my Hunter. I haven't gotten it yet, but I have been trying, but I decided I wanted to record a video and just show you guys how to do it. So first things first, you want to be using Revenant Hunter. I don't use Revenant that much. I'm more of a Void Warlock, or Void Hunter, my goodness. A Void Hunter, I like the invisibility, but you're going to want Revenant, and you'll see why when we actually get in, why Revenant is so good for this Lost Sector, particularly at the end. You want a bow. You want to be able to do overload because the champions are going to be a lot more tanky than what you're going to find at lower levels, so you're going to want to be able to stun them. Particularly, again, because of how congested everything can be and how close these enemies are going to get to you. So, yeah. Anyway, next up, you want Ariana's Vow. You can use the anti-barrier auto-rifle if you really want to, but I'm going to let you know that in this Lost Sector, at least, barrier champions are really hard to hit. They have cover, they have a lot of enemies around them, and hitting them with an auto-rifle is going to be very difficult. So if you want to make it easier on yourself, get yourself the Ariana's Vow. It's pretty cheap. You can get it from the Memorial of Lost Light. You don't really need its catalyst. Its catalyst really only gives you auto-loading holster and gives you 1 more in the magazine. Pretty inconsequential. It will take about 400 core activities to do, but the big thing is that it has anti-barrier properties, and it basically shoots like a sniper in hand cannon form, and it does a lot of freaking damage. So this is definitely a weapon that you're going to want to get your hands on. It makes a lot of solo Lost Sectors easier. And then you want the Falling Guillotine. So you can use Threaded Needle or Quick Fang with Hunter if you want. Quick Fang I would not recommend. It just does not do enough damage to kill an Overload champion before it has time to regen its health. So I would not recommend using this. Falling Guillotine is far more consistent. Threaded Needle, on the other hand, I know it's meta, and I have one with Vorpal here. And you can use, of course, Particle Deconstruction with it to gain a little bit more of bonus damage, but I find that the escalating damage is not that good. And a lot of times when you stun these champions, it's kind of a gamble whether or not they're going to be facing you and whether or not you can actually hit them consistently in the head because they have tiny heads, and you're going to have enemies beaming you at the same time. For stats, I highly recommend having high mobility. You're going to want to be peak shotting and using cover a lot when you're doing this Lost Sector. For exotics, you don't, I mean, I did this successfully by accident with Graviton Forfeit on my Revenant. Exotics aren't really going to matter too much in this Lost Sector. It might make it a little bit easier if you find something that goes well with Revenant. I just don't use Stasis that much, so it doesn't really, it isn't something that I really think about. So I'm just using Starrier Scales just to get my super back a little bit faster and to gain a little extra damage, and you'll see why towards the end of the Lost Sector. Now, as far as mods that you're going to want double Scavenger mods. They do still stack this season. Double Ammo Finder for sword will make sure that you're upkept on your sword ammo, which you're going to need, because if you run out of sword ammo, you're pretty much going to have to restart because you're just not going to output the damage you need to kill overloads. And really, overloads are the big problem in this Lost Sector. And you'll see when we actually do it. Of course, you want the Sword Scavenger mod. Passive Guard is going to make your sword a lot more effective. You're not going to take quite as much damage when you're up close to enemies. Of course, you want the Overload Bow mod, which will make overloading enemies a little bit easier as well. Or, well, it's the only way to overload enemies with a bow. But you're going to want that because you're going to want to stun lock these overload champions. And I will tell you that in Masters, champions do not stay stunned as long, and they actually get a little bit of resistance when they come out of their stun, so you cannot instantly stun them again. You can use bows like Le Monarch to keep them stunned a little bit longer, but again, you want to be using Ariana's Vow. This is the bread and butter of this run. Of course, use some resistance mods. I highly recommend Void because there's a lot of enemies that do Void. You can use Arc, but I would highly recommend Solar, just because the enemies do a little bit more burn damage, so that can help you out a little bit more. Concussive Dampener is nice as well, just for those AoEs. And then for your fourth slot, I would highly recommend using Protective Light. it will give you a lot of resistance when you hit red bar, and then just slam yourself out with a bunch of charge with light mods. So I use stacks with stacks, charge harvester, and taking charge, and of course powerful friends for that plus 20 to mobility. I do have low recovery. This isn't going to be too much of a problem because you do get a lot of cover in this area, so getting your HP back is not going to be too bad. I've done a couple of flawlesses already on this lost sector, so it's not going to be too bad. Actually, my last run I did was a flawless with this setup. Now, if you do die, don't get discouraged. You have lives. You're going to be fine. You just try to get through the lost sector. It's really the last minute is going to be so in handy for it. So when we spawn in, there is going to be a overload champion directly in front of the door. Now, sometimes he just stands in front of the door. Sometimes he will run at you. Most of the time I found he will run at you. So you need to be ready for that immediately once you spawn in. So get that bow drawn, point towards the left, and fire at that overload champion, because otherwise he is going to mess you up. And he has messed me up a couple times. So I'm just going to go over here, and there he is, and I'm going to hit him, and then come up with a sword. You want to get your 5 stack going. And sometimes you have a little bit of health you can finish off with the sword, or you can use a finisher. I find that finishers are a little less consistent, because sometimes if they pull themselves out and they recharge their HP, that it will just cancel out your finishing blow. And special ammo as well is very generous in Solo Lost Sector, so you're not going to have to worry too much about your Ariana's Vow. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you are stunning this champion, because he is going to mess your life up if you don't. You want to start by ad clearing all of these enemies that are in the immediate area downstairs, because when you go for this champion, they're going to start laser beaming you. See, and I stunned him again. You just want to keep him off the field for as long as you can while you are taking care of all these enemies. And you don't need a good bow to do any of this. I'm using one that I got from Banshee like a couple weeks ago, I think it was, with freaking Swashbuckler and Killing Wind. Most of the small enemies aren't going to be too much of a problem. They die in like 2 hits. I would recommend having something with an ascending damage booster. So like Swashbuckler, Rampage, or Frenzy if you can. And then of course Archer's Tempo. That's like some of the best bow loadouts you can get. So the first thing you want to do is you want to close distance with this guy. So I've already gone ahead and stunned him. I'm going to get up, and I may not kill him right away. So you can throw a grenade. I'm going to throw a freezing grenade just to keep him locked down for a minute. So you don't want to immediately go in for him, because once he breaks, sometimes they will come out of their stun, and that can be a little bit of a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish him off with my sword. I'm not even going to finish him. Now we're going to get a little bit more. Now you're going to have some enemies down here that are going to be guarded by this freaking barrier champion, and this is where Ariana's Vow is really going to come in handy. And of course you can peek through here. I didn't mean to do that, but you want to kill this barrier champion. You can peek shot him. Don't worry about killing him super fast. You just want to make sure that you actually get the kill, because that's how you're going to be able to take out the rest of these enemies. And it will pop its bubble a little bit more frequently than maybe what you're used to. See, just popped it almost immediately. Oh, I'm getting killed. So you can use this little cheeky crevice right here to actually hit the enemy. And I'm going to try to finish him off if I can. And I got to reload. So again, I'm not going to sweat the special ammo just because you get so much usually when you do these runs. So I'm actually going to come back up here. I'm actually going to grab this special ammo. And then I'm going to run down here, and I'm going to go ahead and just bow all these enemies. So once these enemies are down, you're going to start getting some snipers appearing on the top ledges. And you do want to take them out as quickly as you can, because those guys are the most dangerous. Snipers in Master or higher will just mess you up. And again, so you can use this little cheeky spot right here, and they'll shoot you through it, of course. You can tell they pretty much just took out half my health with one sniper shot. And if you give them way too much time to shoot at you, you're going to die. So most people don't know this, but enemies in this game have what are called a line of sight mechanic. So the longer that they see you, the more accurate they're going to get. So that's something you're not really going to notice too much in higher level content, because everything's just going to laser beam you. But in lower level content, you will definitely notice that enemies will slowly start getting more accurate. You also want to be sure that you're being careful when you're down here, because you don't have a radar, so you don't know what enemies are still up. See, look, there's a guy right there. I didn't even know he was right there. You want to go ahead and clear out all of these mines before you open up the door, because a overload champion is going to spawn, and if you're slowed down, it's going to make getting to him and killing him a lot harder, and it's more likely that he's going to kill you. So I'm going to go ahead and let that just go, and I'm going to go ahead and hit this. And the first thing you want to do is just aim down that bow, and you want to stun that champion immediately. and then you want to close distance on them. That's the biggest problem with overload champions, is just getting close enough to them to actually hit them. And you want to wait a little bit because I can't stun him instantly as soon as he's out. Oh, he might get me. So he's dead hit. There we go. And you want to be using cover and kind of just dancing around cover with him. There we go. Because these guys aren't going to be super accurate, and as long as you kind of generally know where they're going to teleport to, it's not going to be too much of a problem. So now we're going to go down here, and this is going to be pretty easy. So these guys are actually pretty damn generous when it comes to special and heavy drops. So you just want to make sure that you kill them. Don't skip these guys, even though they aren't that much of a threat, because you always have a good chance at getting some heavy or special ammo when you're doing this. So there's going to be some dogs there. I'm not going to go in there. I'm going to bait them out with my bow shot, because, again, they're not that big of a threat, but if all of them get at you at once, they can become a little bit of a problem. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Just gonna go ahead and get my shuriken back. And if you notice, I haven't really used the stasis abilities that much. You don't really need them that much. They're better against champions than they are against smaller adds. And there are a couple cases in here where I will use a grenade just because the enemies will get you. Now, these guys. So as you notice, these captains have arc shields, and you don't have an arc weapon. Well, Ariana's Vow comes in clutch again, because it only takes 2 shots to break a barrier, because of just how much freaking damage this thing does. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save my ammo. Again, I don't need to save it. This game is pretty freaking generous about that, but it's just, you know, for a peace of mind. So this guy is not going to be too bad either. So he's going to do that. He's going to put up his shield, and then you have more than enough time to just run at him with your sword and just finish him off. Super easy. Barrier champions are not that bad. The ones back there are a totally different story, and you'll see that later on. So now that I've killed them, enemies are going to spawn from over here, and you want to use this ramp up here for cover, because these over here are easy to invalidate. Now, of course, I'm going to stun the overload champion, but I'm not actually going to do anything against them. Oop, oop. See, they almost got me right there. So you have to be really careful, because these guys will just laser beam you. And those champion shots freaking track, which... it's not a good day for you if you get hit by all of them. So now that he's stunned, there's one more enemy. I'm going to go ahead and stun him again just to keep him off of me. Oh, see? Sometimes it takes a couple shots to actually stun them because they have that freaking resistance. So I'm running out of HP here. Oh, that almost got me, but I managed to get him first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for my HP to come back, and then what you're going to do is you're going to stun him again while using cover. Oh my goodness, he's doing so much damage. Stun him, and then you want to close the gap with him. So that's kind of, again, the big thing with these champions, is just getting close enough to use your sword. You want to dance around the cover a little bit to make sure that he can't hit you. And he will teleport a little bit closer at some point, and once he is, yep, see, there he is. And I got him, and I'm just going to sword him to death. So that's kind of the fun thing about these guys, is that they will eventually teleport closer to you. So they're not going to be too bad to hit, as long as you're using cover correctly and you're kind of just dancing around it. Then you have these guys, and a barrier champion is going to spawn. It's not going to be that big of a thing, as long as you're using your cover. Yeah, he's going to hit me with the missiles, and I'm just going to dodge to over here. Oh, there we go. And then these guys, this is where I'm going to go ahead and use my grenade, because otherwise these guys are going to mess me up. So now that he's done, oh, these guys are done, now you can do that, pop his barrier, and then you can literally just run up because you have the resistance with the sword, and you can just finish him off. Oh, there we go. Now this is going to be a thing right here. So the boss in this area is a massive pussy. So what he's going to do is he's going to rush you with these smaller guys, right? He's going to be invisible, but he's going to rush you with these guys. And as he does, you want to get him with your sword. If you don't kill him, no sweat, he's just going to run away and go back to where all the champions are at. It doesn't really matter either which way, because of the way that we're going to take out the champions. But see, I've already gone ahead and taken him out, so he's good to go. Now these guys right here, this is the problem right here with this area, is that these guys have sniper shanks. These sniper shanks can 1 or 2 shot you very fast, and there's 3 of them. So that's kind of what makes them difficult to take out. And on top of that, you have the barriers, which are keeping them shielded. And if you try to shoot the barriers and kill them like this, they're just going to kill you. So what you want to do is you want to use your Revenant Super, just throw it over there, and then you just want to wait a minute. And that's 2 shanks. And we get the shank. There's still a shank over there. Sometimes it doesn't get all the shanks, but as long as you get a couple of them, you're fine. So you can just go ahead and just take out the champion. There we go. So that champion's all taken out. Now there's still 1 more shank over there that usually doesn't happen, but I mean, you know, sometimes you just get unlucky. So I'm just going to go ahead and just take out this champion. Make sure to use your cover to your left. Now that he's down, you can just use your Ariana's Vow and just take him out. Now this champion is super easy. All you got to do is just run up to him with your gun, shoot him a couple times, bam, and there we go. And he's just gonna die. And it's really that easy. Now we're gonna see if I get my Radiant Dance Machines. Again, I haven't gotten them yet, so hopefully this will be the run. It's like my 5th run already. Nope, didn't get it. So I've still got more runs to do. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I will say that if you are not running Hunter and you're trying to run either Warlock or Titan, I would highly recommend using Titan's Missile for that end area, because that's really where you need the super. You just need it in that end area. Use Titans with a shoot through. That's going to make your life a lot easier from getting hit, while you can also deal damage. And then for Warlock, I would highly recommend using Stasis, or using actually I would really just recommend using Stasis, and then just using your freezing nades to stop the barrier champions, because once you freeze them, they won't barrier anything, and then you can just take out the Shanks. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it was helpful, and I hope a few more of you will be able to run this sector. The only other thing I have to say is make sure that you're at light while you're doing this, because if you're below light, you're going to take more damage, you're not going to do as much, and champions are going to be that much harder if you don't. I would say as far down as 5 below is okay, maybe even 10, but anything lower than that, I wouldn't even attempt it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want more videos like this, and I'll see you guys later.